everyone. Welcome to Mercadotecnia y Ventas, Marketing and Sales. Today we have a very special guest. We have Miss Lina Pabon, University Recruiter at Gartner. And with Miss Pabon, we start our interviews in English in the channel. So Ms. Pabon, thank you very much for being here. And let's start, let's jump to the questions because I don't want to take too much of your time. Thank you very much for being here. My first question, can you tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming a university recruiter at Gartner and what attracted you to this role?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me and for sharing this time with me. But yeah, so I'm Lina Pabon. I'm a university recruiter with Gartner. I've been with Gartner for almost 3 years now, actually, which is crazy. Time really does fly when you're having fun. But yeah, I've been a university recruiter for almost 7 years total now. I studied psychology when I was a student at UCF, go Knights. And ultimately, what I wanted to do as a student is help people and learn. That's really why I pursued a psychology degree. And while at first I really wanted to go down the psychology, become a psychologist, go to grad school, go to get a PhD potentially, and become a psychologist, after doing some reflection, I realized maybe that wasn't quite the path for me, but I still wanted to help people. And I really enjoyed working with fellow students. And I thought the career, how you figured out what career to do, that was always really interesting to me because I was trying to figure that out, right? So I had a meeting with one of the counselors for internships, and I thought what she did was really cool. And we did an informational interview, and that's how I learned more about that. And that's what made me start thinking, well, maybe I want to work with students. And that's how I ended up becoming involved with the Office of Experiential Learning and then Career Services. And then I realized that there were people like me, recruiters, that traveled to different universities and they talked to students and they hired for their companies. And I ended up working for another company called ADP. And then after a few years there, I transitioned over and joined Gartner. And that's how I ended up here. I wasn't necessarily looking for a new opportunity. Gartner did come to me, but everything that I heard during the interview process and from my own research, it just really felt like it was a good opportunity for me. And 3 years later, here I am, very happy to have made the change. Yeah.
Okay, no, congratulations, great career path. What do you find most rewarding about working as a university recruiter?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I think I've only, as a recruiter, I've only really worked with students. So I love how excited students are about, most students, I would say, about their career and looking for an internship, finding that first role after graduation. And again, they're just really excited to connect and learn and see what's out there. And I think that aligns really well with my personality. I get very excited and when I'm passionate about something. And so I love getting to share that passion and to get to be a part of that for somebody else, for a student that's looking for an internship, or again, that first full-time role after graduation that can really shape your life. And to get to do it for a company that I truly believe in, like Gartner, I think that's the really rewarding piece, is getting to play a part in all of that for somebody else.
And now, how has your experience at Gartner shaped your approach to recruitment and talent acquisition?
Yeah, I think I can say a lot of wonderful things about recruiting at Gartner and how it's changed, or it's contributed and enriched my own recruiting approach. I would say that one of the things that I really enjoy about Gartner's culture in general is that we really want to set people up for success. So whether that's a client, an associate, or our candidates. So I think that that's something that I'm actually kind of focusing on right now, is figuring out how can I best provide feedback, coaching, and preparation to my candidates. Because I think that's so important, especially with early career talent. Sometimes students just don't know what they don't know. And so being able to figure out how I can do all of that, the feedback, the coaching, the prep calls, and deliver it in a way that they can absorb that and they can actually implement the feedback has been something that I've been especially focusing on right now. And it's been an interesting experience, and I'm looking forward to continuing to fine tune and develop my own way. I'm not super comfortable with providing feedback or coaching, so that's been again an interesting experience. But that's how you learn and you grow, and I think that that's something that again, because at Gartner we really want to set our candidates up for success. I'm really encouraged to explore that and figure out how can I do that for
Well,
candidates.
exactly. Let's talk about that a little bit more. For example, what does the recruitment process look like at Gartner for recent graduates? What are the steps, for example? Mhm.
It will depend. It will depend, but I think for the most part, it's going to be between 3 to 4 steps. So it's usually a phone screen that we start out with, and that's usually what I do. And then we have an in-house recruiter interview. That could be a phone call, that could be a video interview. And then we will either have one final round, or we might have 2 final rounds. There might be additional things in between the final round. So that's where it tends to differ depending on the role. But again, for the most part, we try to make it a timely process. We try to streamline that and keep it to about 3 to 4 steps. Um, and yeah, was that
No, yes,
the
that's
question?
the question. Yes, of course. And following that, what skills or qualities are you looking for in a candidate?
Yeah, so I think for early career especially, we focus a lot on different traits. So I would say executive presence is one of the biggest things that we look for, which essentially just means communication skills. How are you able to communicate with others? In a lot of our roles, especially the roles that I recruit for, which is client success, we are looking for candidates that are going to be speaking to executives. So it's really, really important that they are able to confidently communicate their thoughts, their ideas, that they can do so succinctly, that they're able to influence others as well, and that they have strong business acumen too. So I think executive presence really encompasses all of those different things. So that's, I would say, the biggest thing that we look for. And then in addition to that, of course, we're looking for somebody that's a strong problem solver, somebody that learns quickly and that is a lifelong learner as well. So do you take initiative? Do you learn? Do you ask questions? And we're also looking for individuals that are coachable and adaptable. That's, I think, a really, really important trait to have, especially as an early career candidate, because again, a lot of times you're not going to have a lot of experience, but are you able to learn quickly? And do you seek feedback? Can you implement feedback? Can you be coached? Are you open to all of that? So those I would say are the main things that we look for. Depending on the different roles, there may be additional things that we look for. For example, for sales, we look for sales conviction. So are you truly passionate about sales? Are you driven? Are you competitive? So those are just additional things that would fall under the sales conviction piece. If we're hiring for finance, then of course there might be some more of those hard skills that are tied to finance, like Excel and whatnot, that we might be looking for. But generally speaking, again, the soft skills and the traits are what I think we look for, regardless of the role that
Yes,
you're being considered for.
thank you for sharing. And now, how does Gartner engage with the universities to attract that talent, the top talent?
Yeah, so university relationships and partnerships are crucial to what we do at Gartner here for university recruiting. We work a lot with core schools. So if a university is a core school, that means that we're really spending a lot of time, effort into building our brand and building the partnership with the university. In fact, UCF is one of our core schools, as you know, and this comes from essentially, right, a partnership from the work that we've done previously. So it does include typically a sponsorship piece. So we'll sponsor something with the College of Business or the sales program. And then, of course, we attend a lot of the big ticket events like the career fairs, additional networking events. And another thing that we really like to do too is partner with the student organizations. I think that can be a really a really great way for us to get in front of students that are already the ones that take initiative, that the ones that are trying to get more experience, get more involved. Those are the kind of students that we really want to talk to and get to know. And so student orgs do some really, really great work, and we try to get involved with them when we can. Can be a little tricky sometimes to connect with student orgs, but again, I think some of our most fruitful partnerships can come from working with the student organizations themselves.
Yes. And now let's transition about talking the university recruitment, but how do you see it has changed in the recent years, especially with the rise of virtual recruitment?
Yeah. So interesting. So I don't know that I've personally seen a lot of change through my career. I think even when I was a recruiter previously, I worked locally, so a lot of the initial interview was always virtual, a phone screen, but the remaining interviews were in person. But even then, there was still virtual interviewing going on, right? We were local, so we were able to bring students into the office. But so I think virtual interviewing has always really been around. I think after COVID, certainly though, it became more of a something that a lot more companies did. It's certainly something that we do at Gartner. We recruit across the US, so we have to do virtual recruitment. So I don't think that part has really changed from my perspective, at least. I think it definitely became more usual for companies to do virtual video, phone screens, and interviews like that. I think the one thing that I have noticed, in fact, even just either this week or last week, is the use of AI and ChatGPT and those kinds of tools in the interview process from the candidate perspective, which isn't necessarily a good thing. The example I'm thinking of, I had a teammate who shadowed an interview, and the candidate was using an AI tool during the interview. But the problem is, we could tell the person was reading off of the tool, and it was very obvious, and it didn't make for a great interview. So I would say those tools are certainly new, and it's something that we now have to navigate, because I personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with using those tools for the preparation piece. So prior to your interview, and I think they can certainly help a lot with a student being able to understand their experience, because that's a lot of what you have to be able to explain your experience with behavioral based interviews, right? And being able to answer them. So I think the preparation piece, AI tools can certainly help a student navigate their own experience and be able to know how they can present that. But I think in the interview process, I would not recommend a student use an AI tool. Personally, I think that would make me nervous if I had to, wait and read for a tool to have the answer for me. So I don't recommend that. But I think, again, prior to the interview, to use as a prep tool, they can be really, really valuable.
Yes, yes, no, use it during real time, as you mentioned, because really, well, the one that you're hiring is the AI, is not the person, because the answers coming directly from the AI. But now
Exactly.
let's talk about Gartner. I started the interview assuming that everyone knows Gartner, and it's a very well-known company. But for the students who are listening this interview, can you tell a little bit what is Gartner?
Yes, and I'm so sorry. That was probably on me. I should have
No,
talked
it
a
was
little
on
bit
me. It was
about
on me.
Gartner. So no, thank you so much for bringing that back up. Yes, so Gartner is a research and advisory firm. We're a leader within this space. We work with executives and their teams, and we provide them with expert tools and resources. They have access to all these tools and resources through a subscription. So through our subscription, clients have access to research and insights, advisory, consulting, conferences, and our ultimate goal really is to empower them to make better business decisions through these tools and resources to help them navigate challenges and drive success for their organizations. We work with clients across any major function within an organization. So it can be, a CIO, a chief HR officer, et cetera, any major function within an organization. We're able to support their leaders.
Now, you mentioned that you recruit from all over the states. So, but where is Gartner located? If a student applies for the job, finally, where they're going to be working?
Yes, great question. We have 4 offices in the US. However, we only recruit for most of our opportunities in the Irving, so near Dallas, Texas, and the Fort Myers office. Those are our main hiring hubs for early career talent.
Okay. And what are some of the opportunities for professional growth and development that does Gartner offer to his employees, particular the ones who start in their career with Gartner?
Yeah, so I think that we put a lot of thought and effort into training our associates. So through the onboarding, there's a lot of education that goes into preparing our candidates so that once it's going to depend by role too. So most of my focus is on client success, but the onboarding and even the training can look a little bit different for, let's say, our sales development program or our research specialists. In fact, the sales development program and the research specialist, both of them are more of a development program. So while for client success, the onboarding and training, the formal training could be more of like a 3-week academy. For research, they're a part of a 2-year talent lab. For the sales development program, the sales development program itself can last for about like 2-ish years. So it is going to depend, but from a role training perspective and development, there's again a lot of thought and effort that goes into the onboarding, the training. Then outside of that, there's a lot of resources available too. You have a manager, you have a mentor, and then there's virtual resources that you can leverage if you need support, if you have questions, if you need help with anything. And in addition to that, we offer tuition reimbursement. So if, let's say, a student completes their undergrad, they come to Gartner, and then after a couple months or a year, they decide that they want to go back to school and pursue a grad degree, they can certainly do so, and we are able to provide some tuition reimbursement to help with that. Of course, there's requirements and limitations and whatnot. There's approvals that have to be looked at, but overall, there's also that tuition reimbursement piece, and then we also have an internal virtual training
Mhm.
system platform, if you will, where there are trainings that you can take on things like Excel or presentation, or for my role as a recruiter, there's constantly trainings and refreshers on the systems that I use, or LinkedIn, or presentation, what have you. There's a lot of different internal trainings that are available depending on the skills that maybe you want to improve or develop.
And to start closing the interview, what advice will you give to university students or recent graduates who are looking to stand out in a competitive job market?
Oh my gosh, I could probably talk about this all day. So I'll try to summarize. I think starting with knowing yourself and your experience, I think that's really, really important. The more that you know yourself and your experience, the better that you'll be able to sell that, whether that's putting it in a resume that will highlight the experience that you have. One of the things that I see fairly often is students who have some really great, maybe retail, hospitality, or food and beverage experience say, well, I don't have experience. And then again, I'll look at the resume and it's got some great, again, hospitality or research, but in their heads, they think, well, I haven't worked in an office. I don't have corporate experience, so I don't have any experience. And they're doing themselves a disservice because, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, a lot of the main things that we're looking at are soft skills and traits, and you develop those soft skills through experiences where you are working with people like retail or hospitality. Like there's some really great experience, transferable skills that you can develop in those types of roles. And just even having the responsibility of having a job is in and of itself something that you can speak to and talk about and highlight in an interview. So I think that is my biggest my like first tip is for students to really reflect and think about their experience, everything holistically, everything that they've done, so that they can then go on to make that really great resume that will help them stand out and will help them get that interview. And then a little bit more preparation, a little bit more reflecting, so that they're really able to, they know their experience like the back of their hand, and they can then answer the behavioral based questions in a really great way that will highlight all of that great experience and then will help them get the job. So I think it really starts with that. And also related to that, but kind of like on the other side of the coin, the more that you reflect on what you want to do and your experience, I think that's also going to make it easier for you to identify the roles that you want to pursue. And that's also going to, in my head, it means that you're going to pursue the roles that you will be qualified for and you have some experience for it and you're going to be excited about it. So that also makes it easier. So I think the reflecting piece is the first thing a student should do when they're thinking about what they want to do and how to best prepare, how to stand out. I don't know if that's like a traditional tip, but that's my tip.
No, no, but, thank you. Yes, and it makes a lot of sense if the students think about it strategically. Then I think they can communicate really, really themselves in a more clear and transparent way to you, to the recruiters. And and my last question, also related with advice to the students, but recent or students or recent graduates, how they can expand, or any advice that you recommend, how they can expand their networking and professional relationships.
Yeah. So I actually partner with Amy over in the College of Business,
Mhm.
and I've gone to some of the panels, and we talk a little bit about informational interviews. And I've had students that have reached out, and that's one of my top tips: is reach out to people that you admire, that you're curious about what they do. That's how my career started. Essentially, it was through an informational interview. So I'm a huge, huge proponent of them. I will recommend them anytime, anywhere, all the time. And so I really recommend starting with a informational interview and really reaching out to people. There's also, it's funny, I hear this all the time, how students are like cute and cuddly, and so professionals are more likely to answer when you reach out for an informational interview. So take advantage of that. It's I think a little bit easier to connect with professionals when you're a student because we want to help you. So take advantage of that, and also don't be discouraged if you don't get a response, or you hear no, or you know they're not available. That's okay. Reach out to somebody else. You'll get a yes eventually, and you never know when that yes will be the one that will kickstart your career or just really give you additional information or insight that you didn't know before. So I think informational interviews, take advantage of those. Really take advantage of the events on campus, especially the College of Business at UCF. They do such a wonderful job of bringing employers to the students. So students, take advantage of that, reach out to them, connect with them. We're coming on campus for you. We want to connect with you. So don't be afraid to say hello or connect with us on LinkedIn or ask for that informational interview. And then second is continue to develop those relationships. I've met students where they've met me at the invitational or a career fair when they were a freshman or a sophomore. So too early for our opportunities, but I met with them, they made an impression, and then they've continued to say hello at other events or when they see me on campus. And so I think that's great. That's a great way for you to build that relationship. And oftentimes what can happen is if you build that relationship and you're constantly, um, uh, updating the recruiter on what you're doing and your experience and all of that, by the time that you are eligible for opportunities, ideally you both know each other. So it's more of a, hey, now we're ready, now you're ready to, let's connect, let's have that interview. And ideally that interview process is a lot smoother and feels easier because you've built a relationship, you know about the company, you know about the role, you've attended multiple events, and you're able to, just do a lot better, I think, in the interview process when you've taken the time to do all of that.
Yes, thank you. Great, great advice. And Lina, thank you very much for your time for this interview. How can our audience connect with you and learn more about the opportunities available at Gartner?
Yeah, certainly. Well, students can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn, reach out, send a message. and be patient with me. It's a very busy time right now. But yeah, definitely they can connect with me on LinkedIn. If they're interested in early career opportunities at Gartner, they can also go to jobs.gartner.com, click on the early career tab, and it'll show the opportunities that we're recruiting for. They would ideally watch out for the ones in the United States because we do recruit everywhere, internationally as well. So there might be some opportunities outside of the United States, but we recruit only for within the United States.
And we're gonna put your link and contact on the description box of the video. All
Oh,
right.
wonderful. Thank you.
So again, thank you, Lina, for your time. I'm looking forward that all my students listen your interview because it was a great advice. Thank you very much, and we hope that it's not the only time that we have you here at the show. We expect to invite you in the future if you are very generous to accept another invitation.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll be in Spanish. Who knows? We'll see.
Okay, yeah, let's try it. All right, well, thank you very much, Lina, and to our audience of Mercadotecnia y Ventas. Just remember that always in marketing and sales, we need to generate value. Thank you, and until next time. Thank you, Lina.
Bye.